Now that we're close to Thanksgiving, it should be the time to talk about something in the season, or at least something I should be thankful for. But I just want to talk about Ben 10 again. Ben 10 aired in December 2005 and continued to be one of CN's most popular and profitable franchises, and it was the subject of my second video review on this channel, where I completely messed up the aspect ratio, sorry about that. But yeah, everyone remembers watching the classic series of a 10-year-old kid on summer vacation, getting stuck with an insanely powerful device that turns him into aliens of other species, on a road trip with his grandpa Max, who's a part of an intergalactic police force called the Plumbers, and his snarky cousin Gwen, who can bring Ben down a peg and later develops powerful magical abilities, all while they travel the US fighting off evil from Earth or space. It really hits that sweet spot of action, adventure, and childlike fun that everyone loves. Even the other iterations try and copy and match its success in some ways, but it's not without problems, mostly in its simplified and episodic storytelling, where many plots can feel unexplained, contrived, and also plenty of inconsistent characterization. Though it really got me to thinking, what are the best and worst episodes of Ben 10? People have varying thoughts about it in the fan base, but I want to give my own take. So I'm going to balance them with my own personal opinions, objective viewpoints, and how they are treated in the fan base. It's easier to do in the classic series to the rest due to the episodic nature of the show, and that's a lot less serialized than later series, which makes it easier to judge episodes and have the basis of its place in an overlying arc. And I'm actually really excited to do this. I've been wanting to for a long time. But yeah, I want to say that even though I will be speaking negatively about plenty of episodes, I don't blame the writers at all. I feel so many people don't understand the actual complications of working on this show, and there can be plenty of problems that can arise, like a tight deadline, lack of communication, overlooked problem in the story, or the standards of animation at the time. It's just unfortunate that so many of these can end up affecting an episode, but that's what we have to do, I'm afraid. So now let's get started. It's hero time! Number 5 worst? Merry Christmas. Yes, the infamous Christmas episode. You might ask, how can they make a Christmas special in a series exclusively in the summer? Well, they tried. Now I can try to explain this episode's plot, but to be honest, it's a complete and utter mess. Like, they get stuck in Death Valley, find a door to a Christmas village dimension, where there's enough snow and Christmas elves, but like the head elf, Mr. Jingles, thinks Max is Santa and kidnaps him, and he sends in nutcrackers to get the kids, but they're saved by one elf kid as they get affected by a curse to become elves as they go to Grandpa Max, but also like in the past, like a time warp, what? And they go to the cavern to fight evil toys and the Jingleator, some unexplained magic machine crap that caused all of us had to do Christmas to lift the curse, what? I'm not exaggerating, literally nothing in this episode is explained. What's the time loop, what's the village, what's the curse, what's a Jingleator? It's impossible to follow, it's a complete acid trip. Maybe if the Papa Trivia was found for this episode, it might explain some of it, but it's lost media, so we can't. Now, you might ask why it's not lower on the list. In fact, most fans would be shocked it's not like number 2 or 1. Well, there's a simple answer. It is so much fun! It's that fun type of bad. It's just an insane acid trip of an episode. I think it's entertaining all the way through. Just that random new crazy plot points are utterly bonkers it is. It is not boring. I will never forget what happens in this episode. It's that glorious so bad it's good, which is so much better than most other episodes on the worst list. Also, I gotta say, I do genuinely enjoy the creepy approach to Christmas that you never really see and that artistic part of me enjoys. The classic series was always so good in its unsettling sci-fi approach, and I really wouldn't want anything else from a Ben 10 Christmas special aesthetic-wise.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in an air-conditioned sleigh.
Number 5 best? Be Afraid of the Dark. Now, I might be biased because the Ghost Freak arc is my favorite arc, but I do think that this episode is great for multiple reasons. This is Ben 10's first true approach to a story arc, and no, I do not count the Vilgax arc in the first season. It wasn't actually setting up plot points, and it was just foreshadowing to Vilgax's emergence. In this, you need to see the previous episodes to understand the plot, and it's the first time Ben 10 really approached this style of storytelling, and it feels great. In the arc, Ghost Freak broke free of the Omnitrix to get his minions from the Inner System to Earth and his plan to take it over, by making a satellite relay from a space station to a satellite using a powerful chunk of an insanely mutagenic material called Corrodium to cover the world in darkness so he'll have no weakness and mutate every living thing on Earth to conquer it. And this episode is the Tennyson's last stand against the monster horde as it leads to an awesome episode-long finale in space. If there's one thing this episode feels, It's big. Big stakes right away as the Tennysons are the only things left unmutated on Earth, and Ghost Freak pretty much won. It's just a great spectacle, like an episode-long action piece. Now I've seen people discredit like it's just one big action scene without story, but I don't really think that's a bad thing. I mean, Back with a Vengeance is pretty much one big action scene without story, and this regards one of the best episodes of the franchise. Why is this an exception? The set pieces are great, the action is incredible, we get to see Frank and Sykes' first and only appearance in Classic. He makes a huge impression in the outer space action scene where it feels so visceral and tense. Like they take full advantage of the scenario and everyone gets involved. I'm sorry, but I absolutely love it. Though yeah, Ben's character is pretty insufferable in this episode and in the previous episode. And yeah, it's a problem in the whole show, but that's another thing Back with a Vengeance did, and arguably worse, and no one takes it out on it, so I'm giving this episode a pass too. What an amazing finale to my favorite arc.
Darkness falls. Earth is now my domain.
Number 4 worst? Midnight Madness. Now, this is one episode I don't think many people hate, but I don't think many people like it either. So, pretty much the episode is about the Tennysons going to a giant mall where Ben is coerced by Gwen to partake in a hypnotist demonstration by this stupid looking guy Sublimino. But afterwards, every night in a trance, he goes on a rampage in his alien forms, stealing stuff where it's revealed that Sublimino is using Ben and other hypnotized customers to make a giant hypnotized watch to steal things and take over the world somehow. Yeah. First of all, I hate mind control as a plot point, and this episode did it no favors. This episode feels super meandering and just boring and repetitive of, oh, Ben can't fall asleep, oh wait, now he does, and his aliens are doing stuff until the climax. And I will say, all the alien stuff is done pretty well. We've already seen this whole Ben's aliens committing crimes and attacking people much better in Framed, where Kevin uses the Onyx energy he stole to commit crimes, so it's already done before and more interesting. And Sublimino is such a terrible villain. He's not interesting, and he's kind of pathetic, but not in a cheeky way. He's just boring, a stale, cookie-cutter villain. And his only redeeming quality was that he was voiced by Richard Horvitz.
Behold, Sublimino! I am about to take you on a journey for ruining the performance.
The mall, then all of America.
Major blackmail time.
Are you f***ing filming us right now?
Why was he in the -10?
Bad enough you stick us with the amazing Mr. Nerd here.
Yeah, just kind of a really boring and underwhelming episode with not that much going from it aside from the alien scenes.
No! No, no! It isn't fair!
Number 4 best? Hunted. Regarded as one of the best episodes of the series, which is really neat with it only being the 5th episode. This is the episode I feel shows fans that it's more than just a fun action show. The plot is that Ben isn't taking his alien training seriously, thinking he can just brute force past any foes with his powers. But Vilgax, still in his healing tank, hires 3 ruthless bounty hunters to kill Ben and take the Omnitrix as they all ambush him in a ghost town. Ben is really pushed to his limits here, being outclassed, outpowered, and outsmarted by the bounty hunters, barely escaping with his life again and again. It's a real turn for this series, showing genuine stakes and our hero thoroughly outclassed by his own negligence. And it even has a great twist with a 3rd bounty hunter being a double agent, and leads to this amazing scene.
You barely scratched the surface of its potential. Yeah, so what makes you such an expert? Me? Wrong. I am a noble warrior. You are an impulsive annoyance.
Tetrasis is a freaking cool character, and he had a great introduction. It leads to Ben learning to use his aliens in more smart and creative ways, which shows a great character development this early in the series. I get what they're doing with Brain over Brawn, but is Grey Matter really the best alien here? Upgrade could have destroyed them in an instant. It's what I would have done. Though Ben didn't really muscle it at first, he did great learning Diamond Head's new ability. He only messed up by getting blindsided by a tire, so they could have done something really push that he's just brute forcing. But that's just a nitpick. Fantastic episode that sets up the rest of the series.
What about this?
It's in good hands until then.
Number 3 worst? Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures. I know people like this episode, but I just think it's terrible. Like, it's so boring, uninteresting, and its plot is practically as bad as Merry Christmas. So, it starts out with Ben's aliens being ripped off for a terrible cartoon, but wait, how the hell did they produce an entire show for this? It's been like a month, maybe 2 at most. But whatever, they go to the movie studio as Ben confronts the dude who made the show, but then gets distracted by his childhood TV superhero idol, Kangaroo Commando, who only existed in this episode, and it helps him to get popular. But then the guy who's ripping off Ben gets framed for a crime, and then it's this whole conspiracy on who made the show, and like, where did the plot go? Nothing connects at all, and there's basically nothing here. Why is this a Ben 10 episode? Why is this boring copyright wars and barely interesting alien stunts? They really just have nothing to do here. And it just ends with Kangaroo Commando going crazy and trying to kill the ripoff guy, where Ben tries to save him as Wildvine, fighting through a comically evil set, which is like literally the most interesting set piece in the episode. And it's revealed it was Kangaroo Commando's evil twin. What?
He had a twin brother all along? That's the big twist we were waiting for?
So it turns out he was the guy who made Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures and wanted to kill him for ripping off his idea and not getting the credit for his brother's fame, and by God, do you really care about this? And worst of all, nothing actually gets resolved. The episode doesn't end, it just stops. Ben's still getting ripped off, nothing was really accomplished. I really don't like this episode, and I cannot possibly see what other people see in it. Like, come on, you can't even have Adam West play his own parody? That would at least be something. Fairly Odd Parents and Kim Possible now do their Adam West parodies, why can't you?
Can't anybody come up with anything original in Hollywood?
Number 3 best? Back with a Vengeance. The season 2 finale, and man, it felt like one. This is one of the most beloved episodes in the fandom for a good reason. Two of Ben's biggest enemies joined forces to end him once and for all. After Kevin was stuck in a spaceship, he took command and joined forces with Vilgax with one goal: to kill Ben and take the Omnitrix. Meanwhile, Ben accidentally unlocks the Omnitrix's master control, where he can switch between forms instantly with no time limit, and then abuse it to hell and back. But it's not long before Vilgax and Kevin come to kill him, and that comes in handy to fight back and escape both of them. Max tries to seal them in the Null Void, a pocket dimension for criminals where they'll be stuck there forever, but Vilgax pulls Ben in as Gwen is forced to find Ben and get him back before the portal closes, as Ben fights for his life in the alternate dimension. This episode is so intense with the power of the villains, and Ben using master control to the best ability, and the entire Null Void segment is nail-biting of Ben, Gwen, Kevin, and Vilgax trying to survive the strange world and hostile species. It's just a great rush of adrenaline that puts you on the edge of your seat. And the animation is freaking great, especially in how Ben switches his forms. I mean, come on, the scene is freaking iconic. Yeah, the episode is pretty much one big action sequence, but it's a damn good one. Getting our first look at the Null Void is so good as it becomes a staple of the series and every character gets involved in it. And Ben even loses the Omnitrix in the super messed up scene to save Gwen. He has to stand up to Kevin without it. It's just a great scene and moment. It's one of the few times such genuine vulnerability in the show that hits you like no other. It deserves its status as one of the best original series episodes. It's so satisfying and great to watch. Though, yeah, Ben's characterization was bad, it's really obnoxious, but even worse that he learns his lesson, and then immediately goes back to being a brat again, like, what? But yeah, freaking fantastic episode, and we're not even done. Number 2 worst? Ben 4 Good Buddy, the most hated episode in the fandom. People are probably surprised it's not number 1, but that one is a surprise. So the plot of this episode is that 3 guys with cars start robbing people on a desert highway, and they friend this guy named Lawrence with a super cool RV, which is important since out of nowhere the Rust Bucket is treated like a complete piece of junk that barely works right. And like, maybe that would work in season 1, but this is season 4, where the Rust Bucket has already been established being an insanely high-tech battle vehicle, so you can't treat it like junk this far in. So like, these 3 douchebags somehow continually don't get instantly defeated by Ben as they steal the Rust Bucket and modify it, never really using its alien weaponry, to turn into a giant missile launcher to blow up a money train. Now, this has the same problem as Hero Buddies of, why is this a Ben 10 episode? I know the theme song is fighting off evil from Earth or space, but usually it's fighting mutants, sorcerers, mystical beings, or giant organizations. Not just 3 guys with cars. But at least Hero Buddies had a plot that did justify a lack of alien action. Here it's like the episode forces itself to extend to running length by making Ben and even Gwen at this point just pathetic that they can't handle 3 guys with cars. I mean, it's not the uptick again, but it's just him getting his ass kicked. Really, what else is there in this episode? The weird way this girl falls when Max shoves her? Like seriously, how does he fall that way? And as you can guess, the car guys are really boring and uninteresting, maybe even worse than Subliminal or Kangaroo Twin Man. I love you to death, John DiMaggio, but not even you can save this episode. Actually, it's really funny that John played pretty much the exact same character in Kim Possible as Motor Ed, but he was much more entertaining. Yeah, this episode is boring, contrived, and doesn't have anything going for it at all. The most enjoyment I got of it was editing Laura into the screenshots of the Alien Force finale last year.
It smells.
It breaks down.
And it's like family.
Number 2 best? Secrets. The end of the first season, and boy did it go out on an insane note. You could say this was the true turning point in the entire franchise. Bennett spent the entire first season getting to know and training with his various alien forms and becoming a true hero. But Vilgax, who spent the entire season in Healing Tank, sending robots and hunters after him, finally pulled a Thanos and decides he has to do it himself. But his stasis time has given him a huge, practically indestructible cybernetic body, as he lures Ben in by practically destroying a town. The build up to Vilgax's first true appearance is so great, as until he actively goes after Ben do we see how truly massive he is. Vilgax is Ben's biggest villain, and that is nowhere seen more than in this episode. He is at his strongest and most intimidating here. Absolutely nothing Ben can do can stop him, as he shrugs off every attack. He feels genuinely unbeatable. Vilgax has shown to be cunning and tricky, besides his strength, as he knows the Omnitrix enough to depower Ben to human form, and states his plan to use the Omnitrix to make an unbeatable army of shifting warriors. This is also the episode where we finally learn Grandpa Max's true past as a plumber agent, and hints about his history in Vilgax.
Claws off my grandson, Vilgax.
Grandpa?
Tennyson.
Another thing that really sells Vilgax as a threat is how terrified Max is of Vilgax, and how he tries to get his grandson away from him as much as he can. Though in his ship, the Omnitrix goes haywire and forces Ben to constantly shift through his alien forms, leading to a climax on Mount Rushmore, and this is so insane. Ben is giving his all and pushing his skills and abilities to his limits to even harm Vilgax, is able to shrug off, counter, and beat Ben to a virtual pulp. He feels genuinely indestructible and unbeatable, where you really wonder how he's going to defeat him. This episode is so freaking intense more than anything before, with how big Vilgax is as a threat, and I cannot understate it. Though, a part of me is disappointed that they do defeat him, with Max secretly setting his ship to self-destruct, as he runs back to it to deactivate it as Ben runs away and then he blows up in outer space. I don't know, something about this feels very underwhelming and kind of Looney Tunes and out of nowhere, but still, freaking fantastic episode to highlight the entire franchise, and it's just as important to it.
You are the thorn in my side.
Yes, it runs in the family.
Now before we go to our number 1s, time for some honorable and dishonorable mentions. Honorable mention. There are so many that should be on the top 5, but I have to leave some out. Kevin 11. This just barely missed the list. But it introduces Kevin into the franchise where Ben befriends him, and with his own powers of siphoning energy, lures Ben to abusing his power until he goes too far, and has to stop Kevin from causing destruction after stealing the Omnitrix's energy. Now this is a really great episode with such good character moments and scenes, but I do think it's hurt a lot with the fact that Ben really should have questioned this stuff earlier. Like literally, he breaks and enters, steals a video game, gets chased all throughout New York, barely escaping, and never thinks once maybe he went too far. But then Kevin wants to derail a subway car of people, and suddenly doing crimes is bad. Like, that's a really big problem with the episode that should have been acknowledged instead of not at all. If it wasn't for that, it would have 100% made the list. Game over. Okay, biased pick because it's my favorite episode, but I still think this is great. Ben and Gwen get transported to the video game world of Sumo Slammer Smackdown, and Ben's Omnitrix now scatters his forms as power-ups he needs to collect to use them, as they need to reach the final level to get upgrades token to escape the game while joining with the game's protagonist and stop the villain from using the upgrade icon to escape. It's such an enjoyable episode. The visuals are so amazing, the world is so interesting and great, how it uses the aspects of the franchise and the gameplay is fantastic, the video game characters are great, what they did with Gwen is great. It's just a good episode, I couldn't get enough of it. Though, yeah, in a top 10 list, it would be super unfair to put in an episode that has so little to do with the franchise and it has some of the best in the series when it's stuck in a video game episode, so I really can't put it in. But I do genuinely think it's the most fun episode of the franchise. Ken 10. Another one that just barely missed the list. It's another future episode where Ben 10,000 has a son, Kenny, who at 10 gets his own Omnitrix to be a hero like his dad. But Kenny doesn't feel his dad trusts him enough as Ben isn't sure what to do with his son. but the son of Kevin is using Kane to break his father, now Kevin 11,000, out of the null void. Now it's a fantastic episode that's really the future and Ben growing, and they do a lot with it again for nice character moments and plots. But it's just a bit too predictable and repetitive to the main series for my taste, and it feels like the plot is just too condensed in a single episode to reach its true potential. But still, great episode. Grudge Match. Another great episode. In the middle of a fight, Ben and Kevin are abducted by a mega spaceship and forced to gladiatorial fights for the passengers a la Planet Hulk. So Ben and Kevin are forced to work together to fight against the alien gladiators and the master of the ship, Slick Svigma, to break them all up before the ship warps to another galaxy. It's just a great setting, and it's the first interstellar adventure of the series. Kevin and Ben work great, especially how Ben chooses Kevin to use his alien abilities, which is sweet. And then Kevin uses it against Ben at the end, but Ben uses Cannibal, which is the one alien he didn't absorb then, and it's so cool. Techno is also great, and I recently came back, and this sort of Asian-inspired ship design is so good. What an episode. Ghost freaked out. Everyone remembers this episode. Ghost Freak slowly takes over Ben and then breaks out of the Omnitrix somehow, revealing himself to be an evil ectoneurite who wants to take over Ben's body not only for revenge, but to use the Omnitrix to become unstoppable and take over the world. He's only stopped by his weakness to sunlight as he waits until dark to go on an all-out attack. Ghost Freak is so terrifying and arguably the scariest he's ever been. Every second Ben is untransformed, he is vulnerable to being possessed by this monster with no one to stop him. It's so incredibly tense and terrifying, and he's cunning too, forcing the Mutant Circus gang as his vessels and even possessing Gwen and threatening to throw off a building if Ben doesn't give himself up. He's so great in this episode and shows how he's my favorite villain in this series. Now for some dishonorable mentions, which luckily aren't many. They Lurk Below. This one just barely made it off the list. In fact, it was going to for a while until I realized I just liked Midnight Madness and Hero Buddies more. It's just a really forgettable episode. The trio gets invited by an old friend of Max to his underwater resort about to open the Bermuda Triangle with his bratty grandson. But the resort soon gets attacked by unexplained robot squid aliens, where it's later revealed they stole the aliens' power source and they want it back. And they resolve it by blowing everything up. Weird, like why would you do this and decide to kill them all? Hell, look at Ripto's massacring all of them. It's awesome, but wow. Yeah, the episode doesn't have that much going for it, and pretty forgettable. Could use a lot more Bioshock. A small problem. Not a terrible episode, but it felt underdeveloped. For little to no reason, Ben took his gray matter as he's kidnapped by an alien fanatic and gets put in a jar I refuse to make a joke about. And then a lot of the episodes is him trying to get out of the house and failing. Gray matter doesn't even do anything with his hyper intelligence here. It gets more interesting when he's handed to the Forever Knights, or, well, the organization as they're called, since they haven't actually developed them much yet, and it's honestly not too much better. Also, Ben just turns back to normal for no reason. Not a bad episode, but deserves much more interesting set pieces and actions that was pushed to the second half, and it's definitely the weakest of Season 1. Ready to Rumble. Again, not terrible, but I wouldn't call it good. So, Ben breaks Gwen's laptop as he enters a wrestling tournament as forums against mutants to try to get the money to replace it. Which, wow, Ben, if only you had a super genius alien, or a little technomantic alien on your side, easily fix this in a millisecond. Also, the audience is insanely generous for giving Ben forums like 10 times in a row. But then the episode halfway through shifts to helping out these other mutants from gangsters who kidnapped their mom, yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, it's nice to see Ditto again, finding his greatest enemy of a slightly larger than average man. But again, the plot felt super weak and aimless, but at least it had some nice Ben characterization. Also, it's hilarious how the reboot completely ripped off this episode but got rid of every shred of pathos in it. Now, time for the worst episode of Ben 10 Classic. Gwen 10. Gwen 10, you might say? That weird alternate universe episode? That's the worst? Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but looking closer, it deserves it. The other episodes were boring, contrived, just not that well put together. This one is actively harmful. Without any explanation, Ben is suddenly in the past without the Omnitrix, with full memory of what happened. Ben tries to get the Omnitrix back, but Gwen inexplicably gets it. And the entire episode is pretty much just Gwen being better than Ben with the Omnitrix, and him feeling bad about it. And that's really the problem. Gwen goes through absolutely no training, absolutely no hardships whatsoever, and is magically treated as if she has much more skill and experience than Ben does in likely a month of Omnitrix training. And no, this pop-up is BS. Gwen did not have any patience or practice. She figures out stuff immediately on her first try. I don't care how smart you are not going to figure out how to use alien anatomy and skills immediately without any training whatsoever. Especially if you're freaking 10 years old. That's like saying Albert Einstein can be a professional baseball player because he's smart enough to figure out how the body moves and the physics, which I don't need to tell you how incredibly stupid that sounds. The entire previous season was built upon Ben learning how to use his skills and abilities, learning how to be a good person, and his creativity and ingenuity of using his powers to take down foes he couldn't. I did not go through 16 episodes of that just to be told that Ben's terrible because he's not perfect. The entire series is about Ben becoming a true hero, and it goes well into his adulthood, and that's what makes the show great. It doesn't shy away from the hardships of learning, training, disappointment, defeat, avarice, emotional trauma, everything that makes the show engaging. Ben's journey is so great to see. Even when his character regresses, he will always go back to what he learned. I seriously hate how the show, and even the writers sometimes treat Ben as a stupid brat, treats the Omnitrix as a toy and is forever immature. But Ben, even before, shows his bravery, self-sacrifice, and just plain heroism with or without the Omnitrix. Ben is a hero with or without it, and there are so many episodes showing his growth, especially in the classic series. He thinks of a new skill, he trains with it to perfect it, he gets a new alien, he tries to figure out what it can do, he learns new skills and attacks off other aliens he sees. It feels gratifying and interesting. But this episode says, it doesn't matter how much you train, how much you try, you are not perfect and you are not good enough, and the world will be better off without you. I cannot tell you how much this is a horrible thing in the franchise to say, and how it practically undermines everything. It's not even like the rest of this episode is good, it's literally just a repetitive plot from the first and last episode of the season. It doesn't do anything new or interesting with the premise where it totally can't for a Gwen-focused universe. Like, what if Gwen is weirded out and doesn't want to use the Omnitrix, but Ben with his experience tries to teach her and let her accept her role. Do something that isn't, wow Ben, you sure do suck because you're not perfect. The Gwen aliens suck too, like, okay, Diamond Head looks great, Heat Blast alright, but Grey Matter in 4 arms is hideous. Why the hell would you give them her hair? Ben's did it, like what if they had Ben's hair? Isn't this a great design? I think that's a reason why even though they bring back Gwen 10, they can't move her past the first night. Because when you write a character this way, you have nowhere else to go. If a character is already perfect, what can they do? They can't grow, they can't develop, they don't have a hero's journey. Gwen's story already ends where it starts. Literally the only worth this episode has of foreshadowing Max was the one intended to get the Omnitrix, and that's it. I actually hate this episode for its execution and message, and I'm surprised it's not hated more in the fanbase. Ben 4 Goose Buddy is not nearly as bad as what this episode is, and I think it deserves far more scorn for what it did. I'm glad it's not canon, and I want to imagine it didn't even exist.
So many ways to tell a story, and that's what makes them so interesting. Sometimes you can never predict how they're going to turn out.
But now, for the best episode of Ben 10 Classic. Now, it's usually down to 3 episodes on what's the best in Classic, so I really want to think on what really shows the best of the series in all aspects, visual, story, and emotions. And I think there's only one true answer. Ben 10,000. This episode went all out. It's Max's 60th birthday and Ben forgot to get the cake, but they're soon met with a mysterious sorceress who kidnaps Gwen and leads through a portal where Ben follows as Accelerate. There they go 20 years into the future into an amazing sci-fi city. I love the visuals in this episode. Omnitrix City looks so amazing in sci-fi Blade Runner inspired aesthetic, and especially how they handle lighting and angles, and all the weird futuristic characters, and all the alien designs his aliens have integrated into society. We see a giant statue of Ben, now called Ben 10,000, the hero of heroes. But after defeating one of his new enemies, we see Ben 10,000 as a futuristic Accelerate. After 20 years, Ben has mastered the Omnitrix, unlocking Master Control, and he can instantly shed through 10,000 aliens and stay however long he wants. They've really sold the power and skill of future Ben with his ease of Master Control, the amazing way they ate up the aliens, giving them new and interesting designs, and even showing off new aliens that Ben never used in Classic. It's so cool. But it's so amazing how we get to see how everyone else grew in the future as well. They were taken here by Gwen, or Gwendolyn, and I gotta say, she has the freaking best Gwen design I've seen. Like, it's such a great design, nothing has topped it. Gwen has matured just as much as Ben, Now a master of magic and sorcery, uses the charms of Bezel from the previous episodes for herself. He's also skilled in martial arts, being just as much a hero as Ben 10,000. And we also see future Max as well, who's still loving as ever, but also souped up the Rust Bucket even more as a personal spaceship, and later see he has a cybernetic arm. It's so cool! But we get the main conflict of future Ben himself. Ben 10,000 has it all the power and skill he could ever want. But Ben believes that because of it, he has the weight of the world, and even the galaxy on his shoulders. He believes he should be the main and pretty much only defender of the world because no one else can do it better. He has to be a hero 24/7, even when many people are more than willing to take up that burden. He neglects everything, his family, his relationships, and even his own humanity to focus on his work. He doesn't switch back to his human self because it's useless to him now. He doesn't enjoy what he does, he doesn't have any fun. He's like that embodiment of losing that wonder when you grow up. And it's such an interesting idea, as he's the complete opposite of past Ben, and they butt heads so many times. His duty to being a hero has forced him down a dark and self-destructive path he feels he can't get out of. That's the real reason Gwendolyn brought the two of them to the future, to show Ben 10,000 the humanity he once had now lost. And that's an amazing plot for time travel. But there is another conflict, as not only do we see our future heroes evolved, but also our future villains. We see Dr. Animo, now with a cool new design with a Yeti body and severed head. I love this design, it fits perfectly with the Mad Doctor. It really makes you wish we got to see other future villains like future Charmcaster or future Rojo. Future Animo is trying to resurrect and enhance future Vilgax so that he can finally defeat Ben and upgrade his biology to combat all of Ben 10,000's aliens and tactics, showing that Vilgax will never stop his goal of killing Ben and getting the Omnitrix, dying and resurrecting and corrupting his body more and more. He's as imposing as ever, or even two Bens, one mastering the Omnitrix can't defeat him. Past Ben says that Vilgax might know what his aliens will do, but he doesn't know what Ben Tennyson can do, and he hopes he hasn't forgotten either. And then finally, trusting the advice of his older self,
maybe it's time I did start fighting like you.
It's an amazing comparison, as we've never seen Ben's human form, as he neglected his humanity, not only his physical humanity, but also who he is as a person. And until he finally breaks through what Ben has been trying to help with, and regains his humanity, not physically, but mentally as well. Future Ben regains his fun nature, as his unpredictability and freedom as himself is too much for Vilgax to properly counter like his alien forms, because he will always see the Omnitrix as a weapon, and not as an extension of Ben as a person. Ben is able to go and invades Vilgax to lose his guard and finally trap and defeat him with his past self's help. Meanwhile, the Gwens and Max are also in the action, stopping Future Animo from opening the Null Void and breaking out all the prisoners. So it's nice how everyone has an important role and they all work together so well, it's fantastic. We see adult Ben, now in human form, happily celebrating Max's 80th birthday, reunited with a family he's been neglecting for so long, finally enjoying himself again, and other people again, and letting other people to help him with his work. It's a great counter to Gwen 10, that even after reaching practical perfection, Ben still has so much to learn, and even more in Ken 10 being a father himself. He will always keep growing, and that's what makes him feel so great and feel like a true hero. It's a fantastic moment for everyone involved, it's so heartwarming, also leading to one of my favorite moments.
Never told me the secrets of the watch! How I don't have to go Ben!
Trust me, you're gonna want to go Ben. Thanks for making me realize that.
And with one last gift, going back in the past, Ben gives his grandpa the cake he forgot, now knowing how to cherish the family he has. What a fantastic episode. I think it's pretty much perfect. I think it's the peak of the series in every aspect. The visuals of the future city designs and aliens, the great storytelling and characterization of everyone, and how emotional it all gets and how engaging it is. And that's why I think it's the best episode of Ben 10 Classic.
See ya! And I guess we're gonna be ya!
But hey, that's just my list. I want to know what you think. Do you agree? Was I too harsh on some episodes you like? Was I too nice to a few? Give me your list. I am very interested. And most of all, please tell me if there's any redeeming qualities in Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures. I cannot find any myself.